So this year has been pretty disappointing in terms of movies. I just did a video recently about whether theatres are dead based on the turnouts to theatres, which does in some ways say something about the state of movies. Oversaturated, low quality, and nothing unique. There's some good movies if you really look, and there are two or three great ones, and everything else is just fucking dog shit. And that's been the trend for pretty much the last decade, and to prove my theory, we're getting our second great movie this year, possibly, with Oppenheimer, the first being the new Spider-Man, and the third is coming in the form of the new Ridley Scott movie, Napoleon, which actually looks great based on the trailer that we got the other week. I don't even know the last time that Ridley Scott made a great movie, probably The Martian about 10 years ago. So one great movie since Gladiator or American Gangster back in 2007. So in almost 15 years, he's only made one great movie, and I heard that House of Gucci was fucking awful. I don't know, and I'm not going to watch it to find out. And Alien Covenant was so fucking bad, it was probably the worst Alien movie. It made no fucking sense, and was one of the worst sci-fi movies that I can remember seeing in the last decade. No, actually, it's definitely the worst. So he, like a lot of old directors, has become pretty hit or miss over the years. Of course, when he hits, he makes fucking masterpieces, like Alien, Blade Runner, or Gladiator.
Are you not entertained?
And so after seeing the trailer for Napoleon, I think this not only looks great, but this could be like the biggest war movie in a long time. This feels like a return to the 90s and early 2000s when we used to get big war movies like this. A movie that probably deserves to be as long as it is, because movies these days are way too long. But this is the type of movie that long run times are for, big epics clocking in at what is probably in fact shorter than you'd think. Since this is just the standard runtime of movies now, it's long and probably won't overstay its welcome. It's 2 hours and 38 minutes long. I expected it to be 3 hours, but I think assuming that this is good, this shows that movies really don't have an excuse to be as long as they are, because your average action movie or superhero movie should not be as long as a movie like this. Ridley Scott has stated, and from the trailer you can kinda see it, that this will be a bit of a character study on Napoleon, which will also allow Joaquin Phoenix to flourish and shine in the role, so I'm expecting a lot from him based on previous roles like the Joker. Ridley Scott even said that he rewrote the movie with Joaquin Phoenix's performance in mind. You can also see in the trailer Joaquin Phoenix wearing the crown, reminiscent of his role in Gladiator, which was a nice touch. That's 2 emperors now that he's played. He has to play a third before he retires or dies. Getting to play Alexander the Great or Caesar, or he could follow in the footsteps of John Wayne and play Genghis Khan, the best casting decision that was ever conceived. I think it would be a great idea for someone to make a movie that's about the making of that movie, kinda like The Disaster Artist was about The Room. Have someone play John Wayne playing Genghis Khan. But this is clearly a war movie as well, so I'm hoping we get brutal battles in the vein of something like Saving Private Ryan or the big battles from Game of Thrones. I wonder if we'll get a scene like in The Patriot where a dude's leg gets blown off with a cannonball, and there's going to be lots of cannons, so that'd be crazy if we got a scene like that. I'm curious how much time is actually going to be spent, though, on actually showing Napoleon as a strategist, and not just on the battles themselves, because that is what made Napoleon so successful as a general. He was so good that his enemies had to imitate his tactics to stand a chance against him, pretty much fucking up anyone who came in his way. And we've seen what Ridley Scott can do with epics like Gladiator and Kingdom of Heaven, so he can definitely pull off this kind of movie. I'm just not sure how much of this is actually going to be accurate. I don't think it'll be as inaccurate as Gladiator was. If it's a character study, then you'd hope that most of it was accurate, although there's always going to be bias and the perspective from the writers about the characters that comes through in the art, of course. People need to remember that these kind of movies aren't documentaries. Plus, there's already a video breaking down how accurate the movie is based on the trailer. Spoiler alert, not very. But you know who isn't happy about this historical inaccuracy? I don't know if anyone has seen this article yet, but it's the dumbest shit I've ever read, and I saw this the other night by Slate magazine. It's like BuzzFeed on steroids, I guess. It's so irrelevant and I don't get it. So they made this article called Wait, Napoleon Was Hot? Ridley Scott's new biopic certainly makes you think so. Okay, so first off, who gives a fuck? Is this relevant? They picked him because he can act, and he's short enough to play the role. Average height for the time, of course. Don't at me about that, okay? And it's not because he's hot, but does anyone actually think that Joaquin Phoenix looks hot in this role? Who's coming in their pants watching Napoleon? Watch out if you're ever in the theatre, these freaks at Slate Magazine could be jerking off next to you. Some people really make it so blatant that they need a story to tell. Clearly, there's not enough going on in the news. They don't like that Joaquin Phoenix isn't as ugly and French as that ugly Frenchman Napoleon was. They think that this is actually news. It is funny to rip on, though, I will say that. All I can say is this could be a decade defining movie like Gladiator was at the turn of the century. Maybe not as impactful on culture as that movie was, but something that we will remember when the decade is over instead of all that repetitive shit. I just hope that it lives up to the expectations that I'm sure others also have about the movie. But anyway, that's it. You can piss off now.